She is one of the very few people who truly operates in the rare intersection of AI, security, and developers. She has built some large-scale AI security and privacy programs.
I am actually at Microsoft leading the end-to-end response for AI security and safety response inside of Microsoft Security Response Center. I get to interact with security researchers, both from academia as well as industry, and work with them to bring their expertise in actually finding vulnerabilities in our product and mitigating that. In order for us to reap the benefit of Agentic AI, we need this to be predictable, trustworthy, safe, and secure systems. Initiating actions based on goals and environment triggers without any human intervention.
And it becomes unpredictable. Yes, what you're saying is absolutely right. Welcome all to another exciting episode on AI on the Edge. I'm Amar Kanagaraj, founder CEO of Protecto. I'm excited to welcome Raji. She's a seasoned cybersecurity leader and a principal engineer manager at AI and safety at Microsoft. She's one of the very few people who truly operates in the rare intersection of AI, security, and developers, and making it all sense. So I'm excited to have her. She comes with a deep experience working for Microsoft, Apple, Adobe, and she has built some large-scale AI security and privacy programs. She's also a very passionate mentor and advocate for women in leadership. With that, Raji, we are excited to have you. We are looking forward to your real-world insights. Welcome. With that, can you give a quick walkthrough of your journey? It'll be very insightful.
Of course. Thank you so much, Amar, for having me here. Really excited to be on the podcast. My journey has been I started off as an engineer, and through I really enjoy exploring and understanding and solving large problems. And so slowly realized that in order to do that, I need to actually do more. I need to be with people. And so I got into program management, and I started to really understand and build large-scale programs across multiple domains of security. So a lot of proactive work, reactive work, security strategy, security leadership. And that gave me the ability to interact with people, understand where people are coming from, as well as, ultimately solve problems for large enterprises. And in my current role right now, I am actually at Microsoft leading the end-to-end response for AI security and safety response inside of Microsoft Security Response Center. And in this role, it is I get to interact with security researchers, both from academia as well as industry, and work with them to bring their expertise in actually finding vulnerabilities in our products and in Microsoft AI services and products, and solving and mitigating that.
Yeah, very interesting. This is what excited me, Raji, when we first met. You are the bridge between all the people I mentioned, like AI, then the academia, then there is developers, then there is security, all these things mixing together. That's exciting. So with that, I'm going to ask this first question, which is, what are the AI news you're most excited about, right? You can pick one or two or many that excites you most.
Yeah. So, this week is actually a action-packed week. So I will pick three. First one is, Black Hat EU just ended. And I love Black Hat in general because, again, this is a place which is buzzing with community, researchers, partners, and these conversations and these relationships. I was obviously not there at Black Hat EU, but in general, these kind of places is where you really understand the power of community, the hallway conversation, and these insights really push the boundaries, right? And they drive meaningful insights and security research for the long term, even after the conference ends, right? So you're basically building relationship, and then you continue on building this community. I'm very passionate in that area. So So that's one aspect. And then at
Okay.
Black Hat, obviously, there were lots of great announcements. The one which actually stood out to me, actually, I would say two stood out to me. First
Yeah.
one is really around OWASP Agentic Top 10. They
Yeah.
released that, and this is so relevant to today's world, right? Like the way I think about it is, in order for us to reap the benefit of agentic AI, right? We need this to be predictable, trustworthy, safe, and secure systems, right? Like we need to go
Absolutely.
slow to go fast, like basically ensure
Absolutely.
that we have the right level of, so that there's trust, right? To be able to really run autonomous agents. And so what OWASP released, which was a community effort, really smart individuals across the world came together to develop this, and actually they tested it out with multiple large enterprises as well. So it was a good
Absolutely.
mix, right? This was
Yeah.
focused
Yeah.
on autonomous execution overall with agents, right? Like these are initiating actions based on goals and environment
Absolutely.
triggers without any human intervention involved here.
Yeah, this
So
is the
this is
first
very
time we are having some application that can act independently, right? And think and act, and it becomes unpredictable. Yes, what you're saying is absolutely right. Yeah, Raji, that's a very
yeah.
exciting development. Yes.
And yes, and then the part two development was MSRC. My team launched
Mhm.
a bug bounty program. This was not focused on AI per se, but this was
But
open source bugs, as well as we kind of opened up to talk about. It does not matter, whether it is in scope or not. We basically gave a standard award policy. So these were two big announcements at Black Hat, which I'm really excited about.
okay.
And then the third development is
Mhm.
another thing which is like very close to my heart, which is Anthropic and the
Yeah.
MCP, right?
Right.
They donated MCP to the Linux Foundation. And now
Okay.
it basically will become part of the Agentic AI Foundation, AIF, part of the Linux Foundation. And this basically, we have seen an increased adoption across the entire industry, different places with MCP. And now
Yeah.
this really kind of sets the stage for it to continue to be interoperable and not a vendor specific,
Makes sense. Truly a
protocol.
standard, yeah, standard protocol, industry-wide standard protocol. Makes total sense. All exciting news, Raji. So I'll go to little deeper into our earlier conversation. The first question I'll ask is, how do we define and differentiate AI safety and AI security, right? And mainly, I want to understand in what ways it is different from traditional applications, right? Traditional application security. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I will start by this is a great question. Right? This is one which is near and dear to my heart. So thank you for asking that. So with AI security, right, it's really about this is defined as security vulnerabilities which exist because of LLMs in a product or
Yeah.
AI in a solution, right? And
Mm.
so this is really focused on exploiting weaknesses
Mm.
specific to these AI systems.
Yeah.
Like it talks about some of the examples. My team actually published an AI bug bar. If you
Mm.
look for MSRC AI bug bar, you will see that we have a bug bar published, which actually talks about different types of these vulnerabilities. Example would be inference manipulation vulnerabilities, similar something
Mm.
like the one which is everybody's talking about, indirect prompt injection, which is also like
Absolutely.
the top 10 in the OWASP
Oh, wow.
LLM
Yeah.
vulnerability.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the other kind of things will be information disclosure,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so that is basically what AI security is all about. When it comes to AI safety, the way you think about safety and security really is like different buckets of AI
Right.
risks, right? You can't just
Right.
put AI risk in a bucket and say AI risk.
Absolutely.
It's like, hey, there are different aspects of impact a AI system will have on the overall
Mhm.
environment, both
Right.
from a technical perspective as well as from a socio perspective, because these are
Mhm.
now socio-technical systems we are starting to kind of create, right? And so from a safety standpoint, we are really calling it like, on our bug bar, we have called it content related issues. And these are
Mhm.
really focused on harmful and biased outputs, hallucinations, misuse scenarios, that kind of stuff.
So when you word used the word socio-technical, could you a little bit elaborate that? And also, how okay, you talked about bug bar. So little bit, you have a different bugs on safety, security. How do you deal with it? Little bit more color on that. That will be very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So specifically when you talk about socio-technical systems, right? When AI systems are now being used in multiple places, and because of
Right.
how accessible AI is, so we
Right.
really need to think about, what is the actual impact to society or from this, right? Like
True.
AI
True.
systems are used to, like, for example, evaluate people for loan applications, or
Absolutely.
so that is, it is
And people
not
are using for
really that.
mental health, right? Yeah. People
Exactly,
are
it's
using
not.
AI for mental health. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's lots of different applications. That's why I'm using the term socio-technical, and that's why AI risks are multi-dimensional.
True, so true, so
So
true. So, if I had to rephrase just my your understanding of uh, AI systems are the socio-technical. When you say socio-technical, we are dealing with people, the impact, and societal interactions, and the technical components. So it creates this multidimensional, yeah, risk model there, where we have safety on one side and the security on one side, and of course privacy and everything built in. The put simply, the safety or the hallucination or some kind of that harm that can come from misuse of the AI and things like those for the society and for the individuals and the companies. Then the security is data leaks, unauthorized access, those kind of data related, more of uh, technical risk associated with it. So that's how you are seeing the risk. And when you say, how do you see that different from a traditional application? One is traditional application, we did not have the thinking, autonomous, we did not have that. So our traditional application was much more predictable. So do you think you will consider that as a socio-technical, or is it anyway you differentiate between these two? How do you think about these two differently?
actually, it's a very good point, right? Like, they ultimately, even the traditional systems were socio-technical because we were still using them for loan applications and things like that.
Right, right,
But it was very predictable. You knew
right,
exactly what was the input, what was the output. Here there
right.
is a level of, like, inference which is happening, which
Correct.
is very different, right?
Yeah,
That
just
is
some
the
kind of yeah,
biggest difference.
interpretation and decision making that is happening, which is also black box.
Yes,
We don't know what's
yes.
happening in LLM. Yes, yes, so true. Yeah, please continue. Yeah,
So that
yeah,
is basically the biggest, like, change, right? But
yeah.
I would say the way you have to think about traditional versus AI is more like an
Mm,
and. It's not a
mm.
or, right? Because
Yes,
in the entire system there will
right.
be application vulnerabilities which are normal because there's going to be a website, there's going to be a web service,
Yeah,
but there's also going to be AI specific vulnerabilities. So I think it's an
right.
or, I'm sorry, it's an and,
Yeah,
traditional plus AI in the larger systems. And end of
yeah,
the day, we are all solving system problems, system
right.
design problems. And so we
True.
have to think about what's the true value of all the interactions. It's not so much about the specific, like, I'm not threat modeling just my AI product. And I'm not saying all this is out of scope. I'm actually thinking
Right,
about the entire end to end, right? All the way
right.
from till the user.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because once you add MCP or tool calling, pretty much you are connected with the rest of the world, right? The AI is
Yeah.
going to call your traditional MCP and it's going to call your data sources. It's going to make a tool call and it's going to interact with your traditional applications. Then users are going to interact. So it's going to be very interconnected. And you cannot, as you said, you cannot think AI security, application security. No, it's all one security and one safety, one
Yes.
the whole thing as there's no differentiates all mixed into one. Fantastic. So let me go to the follow-up question on this one. It says, what or which traditional security skills, frameworks, and tools can carry over to AI, right? Some are basics and you can carry over. And what are emerging for like this mental
Yeah.
frameworks and skills? How should people think about this?
Yeah, this is a very good question, and also like something we have seen as we have worked with researchers in this space, right? Like when we have initially there was like a little bit of a hesitation from the security researchers to dip their toe in the space.
Right.
They were like, but over time, right? Like over the past feels like a long time, but it's been just a
Yeah.
few years, right?
Yeah.
Over a few years, it has
Yeah.
slowly people have started feeling very comfortable in doing research in AI because ultimately, right, as a security researcher, you bring in the mindset of inherently curiosity and you're
True.
looking for ways to show gaps or vulnerabilities in a system. Or you are, a different mindset of security researcher is like you are fascinated by the mathematics of, how these things are working. So like these are
True.
and so those things still apply, right? The way I
Mm.
would think about it is that specifically with AI security, right? It's a very dynamic and a multidisciplinary field, whereas you're very closely interacting with the actual context, right? So if you're developing like a healthcare application, you're working with
Sure.
people who have had experience in healthcare, right? And the
True.
more you can bring the so if you think about it as, in order to create safe and ethical applications, you
Mm.
need to really focus on how do I bring context into this,
Mm.
right? So
Yes.
there's a level of understanding the actual the subject, whether you're
Right.
mental health, right? I'll just take mental
Right.
health since you started it.
Yeah.
Then you need
Yeah.
someone who understands that, who has
Right.
lived that experience. So this is where it's very important to have diverse skills on your team,
Mm.
right? And there's
Yeah.
also an aspect of natural language processing, right?
Mm.
The all of the instructions with AI is now in natural language. So that's
Absolutely.
very different than how to handle code.
Correct, 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 correct. So, if I had to rephrase, so you the traditional skills. When you say traditional skills, these are the expert domain knowledge. If was becomes very very critical in this new world when you're tackling a domain specific problem. For example, mental health or healthcare or financial services, wherever we go. Yes, there is a raw, powerful LLMs available, but the context is where it becomes the tool becomes powerful for your use case, and that's where the traditional knowledge and your traditional, when I say traditional, it's not that old or anything, but it is just that the knowledge on the domain and expertise come into mix with AI and produce great results. That's fantastic. From a security point of view, are there any frameworks you would recommend? Hey, this is how we are thinking AI secure or AI plus security or AI security, the whole thing, versus traditionally it was the framework was this, and how is it shifting?
So if you, I'm not going to talk about all of security, it's
Yeah,
very big. So I'm
yeah,
just going to
yeah,
focus on security research or security
yeah.
testing, right? So when you
Sure,
talk about
sure.
security testing, right, like, so there
Mm.
are multiple aspects of security testing. We
Sure.
kind of talked about it through this podcast, but I'll say more like, so when you talk about you can talk about application focused testing. That means
Sure.
this is about, the interactions of system components, which is around the AI model, right? So
Hmm.
you're
Hmm.
thinking about it in terms of securing endpoints with authentication, rate limiting, anomaly detections.
Sure.
That's one way to think about it. Another way to think about it is model focused testing.
Hmm.
Now your focus is about vulnerabilities within the AI model themselves, right?
Hmm.
Uncovering failure modes in these AI systems. So you're
Hmm.
thinking about detecting weaknesses before attackers can exploit them.
True,
So,
true.
so things example here would be an adversary manipulates a prompt to make a
Right.
model generate false but convincing medical advice, right?
True,
Like how do
true.
you identify something like that? So that
Yeah.
is model focused testing. And the
Mm.
last one I would call it is like output focused testing. We've been
Hmm.
talking about this black box and it's giving us output. So now you
Right.
can look at the output and evaluate whether it is, generating any societal, ethical, reputational risks, and
Uh-huh.
kind of focused on, any bias, any additional bias it's kind of introducing, right?
Right.
So think about it as like a recommendation system amplifying some misinformation or language,
Okay.
basically showing harmful or discriminatory content. So
Okay.
just thinking about it in these three buckets help you kind of think differently about how you can establish your skills in these spaces. The
Okay.
thing I'll talk about is with AI. Like obviously you need to know AI, artificial
Yeah.
intelligence, like
Yeah.
basics. There's
Yeah.
lots of different courses and
Absolutely.
many courses on this. And then
Yeah.
cybersecurity, like knowing cybersecurity and understanding the fundamentals of cybersecurity is important, but also
Yeah.
like data privacy,
Yeah.
and because the lines are blurring, right?
Yeah.
Privacy, safety, security, they're all coming
Yeah.
together. So
Right.
in the world of AI, I think the most important thing I would say from a skill standpoint is the mindset of continuous learning and adaptability, right?
Yeah.
Because for example, right, like there's no, like, it's very hard for someone to say go read this textbook, because that textbook is outdated before it is, because things are
And
moving so fast.
so bad. Yeah.
So
So true. So true.
instead, like these kind of
Play
conversations, real
around.
time
Yeah.
conversations, follow like your favorite researchers on like Twitter or something like that, or X, and making sure that you're on top of it. That is really,
Yeah.
that mindset, that growth mindset is so
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah, because things are moving so fast. And one more thing, you touched on this point. I just want to double click on this. You said, hey, it's not code, it's language now, right? So in the three buckets, are we still using code, or is a combination of code and language, or using a model to do another testing? How are you thinking the three buckets of testing you talked about? How do you think people should think about tackling these problem test cases, things like that?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. So first thing is I would say that, it has to be code and language together, right?
Okay.
Not
Okay.
just, and then actually I'll go one step further. It's
Yeah.
not, if you look at how adversaries are working, or, how attackers are, they are actually not just going from one language, they're actually
Right.
moving from multiple languages, right? Like, so they ask a question in English and they
Interesting. Yeah.
try to manipulate it in a different language, like an
Absolutely.
Indian language, like Hindi, and then
Yeah.
change it, transliterate it, and see
Yeah.
how, because a lot of the data and the training for the LLMs have been mostly in English. So
Right.
changing the language, we may be able to overcome some of the
Guardrail.
guardrails.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. So it's a combination of both language and also being creative and also creating these language, mixed languages, all these test
Yes.
cases to be created. Oh, fantastic.
And
So
specifically with these testing, right, like it's
yeah.
what I talked about was three different buckets, but
Yeah.
actually the interesting part of this is, end of the day, it's system design. It's actually
Right.
all. You need to be
Okay.
able to, your skill set can be, you can start focusing on one aspect of it, but then
Right.
slowly as you get better at it, it's like how can you mix and match between them, and the more you
Yeah.
can mix and match, you get better skilled in this area.
Yeah. So, and you can test end to end from your starting like endpoint to the model to the output. You can the whole workflow, right? And also the workflow
Yeah.
is also getting complex. So, it's not like the single traditional path. It can take a, multiple path. It depends on what kind of questions you are asking an agent and things like that. So that takes me to the last question. We can add more questions, but the last question I want to get to is how can we talked about agents, we talked about MCPs, we talked about tool calling, we talked about the complex nature of how these things are interacting in an enterprise. How can they govern agents, MCPs, tool calling safely at scale, right? I don't want to block my innovation, right? I want to enable innovation, but at the same thing, how do you make it safe inside the enterprise? How do you think about this?
It's a very interesting question. I'm going to take a very kind of different approach here. The
Sure.
approach is really about, you need to do something, like you need to slow down to go fast, right? That's
Mhm.
basically my mindset. What I'm trying to
Mhm.
say that is that you need to have your basics, fundamentals completely buttoned, right? You need to have
Mhm.
your logging, you need to have your, principle of least privilege, how you're using zero trust, all of these concepts like really buttoned up, right?
Mhm.
Observability and all of these things need to be really thought about
Mhm.
before, so
Mhm.
that you can actually accelerate innovation, right? And so
Right,
the
right.
the, the goal is you do the right things to ensure that you are putting in the processes, putting in the frameworks and the mindset that you are thinking about the problem holistically, like we talked about, right? Like in the multi-dimensional view of the problem. And also, like,
Right.
how does it impact the person? How does it impact the system? How does it impact the target? Are we thinking
Right.
about an attacker first view? So the more you can think about it beforehand, so earlier
Mm,
you can think about all of that, the
mm.
faster your innovation is going to go, because
Okay.
you're able to now tackle things because you've taken basics into consideration.
Absolutely. So this is a great example, Raji. So I keep telling this to customers and even other developers. One is, you know, people think brakes slow you down, but brakes are the one that helps you go drive faster. What if I give you the world's fastest car? I'll give you a Ferrari, but no brakes. How fast can you drive? Maybe a mile per hour before you get scared and not drive at all, right? So brakes are the one gives you confidence to drive at 100, 200 miles per hour, whichever you want to drive at. So if you want to go really fast, build on the basic control systems like what you said, which is building do I have the right framework to think about threats? Do I have the right testing? Do I have the right data observability to know what's happening? Right, and also right evals controls, so that the security, privacy, all these things in place, so that when I want to go really fast, I can make sure that my data is going to be safe, my customer trust is I'm not losing the trust. I can have the full visibility into what's happening inside my organization. So this gives you the control to really accelerate and build and ship things faster. Is a fantastic framework. You touched from same analogy, you are touched from a different angle, saying that hey, it's okay to be slow, but build it right and accelerate it forward. Like, yeah, that's
Absolutely. I'll
yeah,
add one last one to that.
sure.
It is actually write it down, right? Like
Mm.
write down what you're talking
Document it.
about,
Yeah,
document it. I know it's like,
yeah.
it feels like it's archaic, like, why am I doing this? But doing
Mm.
this actually helps you to distill really what is the problem you're solving. So that,
Right.
like later on, especially how fast things are moving, somebody might come
Absolutely.
and say, what's the problem? And maybe there's like a third level problem you're solving and the
Right.
actual problem you've lost. So
Mm.
that's like really important to write it down, just write it
Right.
down and keep that as your living
Structured, so
document.
that when you're, yeah, when multiple people in an organization, especially, when you're interacting with many people, right? Having a document central place of how to think about the problem, how we started, the history, and a little bit of context also matters. People, lose context, and they are talking about a problem, which is, as you said, the third level problem, forgetting the
Yeah.
first level, you started to solve a different problem. That's so true. Fantastic, Raji. This has been a very insightful, like what when we met first time, when we started talking, all these topics came up, and I thought he'd say, hey, this is a fantastic topic for our audience. So that's the reason I wanted to have this conversation. Any parting thoughts, anything you would love to announce to the audience, anything you would like the people to follow, or any news, anything you want to share? Happy to please feel free to share it.
Oh, absolutely. So, like I said, one of the things, thank you again for having me here. It has been a pleasure. The whole, conversation's been great. One thing I wanted to share with everybody is, like if there's any researchers who are listening and want to collaborate with Microsoft Security Response Center, please reach out to us. And, happy to collaborate, happy to learn and understand. And if there are other people who are thinking, hey, I want to think about AI security research, yeah, absolutely. Reach out. We can chat.
Great. Fantastic. Yeah, and thanks again, Raji. Thanks for the audience. Please type your questions on LinkedIn. We'll get to it. Either Raji, me, or somebody from the team will get to the question and answer it. Thanks again. Thanks for your time, and
Thank you.
happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, thanks.